Good morning and welcome to the Carla Marie and Anthony Show. My name is Anthony.
I'm Carla Marie.
You are the show, so thank you very much for being in the chat. We also are going to be joining someone later today on their stream that you can watch. It's part of this podcast episode we're doing. So part of the podcast episode will be pre-recorded, and you'll get that eventually when the podcast gets uploaded. But the other part is going to be from today's stream. And it's the Bob Ross podcast that our friend Ron Scalzo does, who used to be a Elvis Duran in the Morning Show family member. Well, he's still a family member. He used to work on the show.
Bald Freak Music.
Yep. Bald Freak Ronnie.
And so he produces this whole podcast. It's incredible. So we are going to be guests because they're focusing on Twitch as a community and how it ties into the Bob Ross community. Because there is a Twitch streamer who paints Bob Ross paintings, and that's the stream we're going to be on.
So there are Bob Ross certified painters, paint instructors.
Crazy.
And many of them do Twitch streams or Zoom classes and stuff like that. So that's who we are going to be hanging with today. We'll put that in the Discord later. If you feel like watching, we'll also tweet out the link and post it on our Instagram stories.
Yes,
her name is, check that out.
Her name is Jossie, but her stream is Lady Galaga.
Which a couple weeks ago when she started following us, I very briefly thought Lady Gaga was following us. So we'll talk about that later. But on the list today, Carla Marie.
You mentioned Sweeties by V.
Yes.
Right before this because she subscribed or...
She gifted 500 bits.
Oh, wow. Or did that. And it's funny because I was going to say she was on our TV last night, 2 nights ago, because I have our TV set for to rotate photos.
Oh, okay.
And it was a photo of when we met at Stagecoach.
Yep.
Yes, Stagecoach. And I was like, oh, hey, Sweeties by V on our TV. That's awesome.
I do love the random pictures that come up on that because we have a smart TV and whatever. I don't know. What is it, a Samsung? What do we have?
Yeah.
And it's connected to Google Photos. But on the list today, we do have our Costa Rica field trip. We will be going to Costa Rica at the end of March, early April next year. It's a 6-day trip. Most of the trip while we're in Costa Rica is paid for.
Yep.
With this one payment, you can put down, I think, 25% right now?
Yep.
And then pay as you go until, like, the winter, essentially. Yeah. And what else was there? We still have the $200 in early bird special spots, whatever you want to call it.
Thank you, Claire. Put the link in there. If you are watching live, you can see it there.
And we got 2 movie updates.
If you are not watching live, you can find this in the description of the YouTube.
All right. And there are 2 movie updates. You had your 1 movie night yesterday.
Yes. Am I talking about that right now?
Yeah, do that now.
So I got to host and watch an advanced screening of It Ends With Us last night in Seattle. It was, I'm not going to spoil anything. Whether you read the book or didn't read the book, I won't spoil any of it. But it was so good.
Really?
So it's starring Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni,
Who's Justin Baldoni?
An actor.
Yeah, but what else would I know him in? Why give me a tune?
I thought you wanted me to tell you his character name.
No.
I don't know what we would know him from. Brandon Sklenar, you know him from 1923. He's like the poacher guy.
Oh, okay. Justin Baldoni is a very handsome man.
Yeah. It'll get you.
He's best known for portraying Rafael Solano on the CW satirical romantic dramedy Jane the Virgin.
Oh, yep. I didn't watch that, so wouldn't know that. But I remember when he got cast, people were like, "Oh, is he going to be a good Ryle?" He's so good.
I think if I was hot, I'd look like him.
I've had friends that tell me that you remind them of him, which is not a good thing.
I'm not saying I look like him. That's a very handsome man.
Yes.
But I'm saying if I was hot, that's probably what I would look like. There's a difference.
Okay.
I'm going to put this guy on the screen.
Anyway,
everyone's going to look at this handsome.
Can I finish doing my movie review, please?
No.
Please?
Yes.
Thank you. And then you have Hassan Minhaj, who's also in it.
Oh, really?
So good. Like, they were perfectly cast. And anyone who was, like, all mad about it when it happened, it's so good. And obviously Blake Lively as Lily Bloom. Oh, my God. Her wardrobe, love it in the movie. But they really stuck to the book. And anything that was changed still had the same outcome, but how they told it is a little different. And that's not a spoiler. It's just you can't books can't be completely the same when you're telling it as a movie. So 10 out of 10 lilies, 10 out of 10 blooms, whatever it is. I highly recommend watching it. Even if you didn't read the book, there were a lot of people last night who did not read the book, loved it. So
yeah, and I think that's what the movie creators need to do. They need to say, okay, how do we stay true to the original subject matter, right? The original text. But also, how do we make this a movie that if you didn't read the book, you're still going to love? Like, what parts can we cut out? What do we have to keep in? What things can we add, maybe? Let's check out.
I didn't realize Justin Baldoni also directed it.
That's Justin Baldoni.
Mm-hmm. That's Ryle.
He looks I mean, that's like a whole different person. Glasses and short hair, no glasses, long hair.
I don't even...
The hair up.
He doesn't look like any of those three men in the movie.
Well, that's a shame because those three men, all three of them.
He's a different one.
Very attractive. Okay, and then there is another movie night that you have coming up in less than 10 days.
On August 15th, I will be hosting a screening of My Old Ass. It is an Aubrey Plaza movie, and it's... I could cry watching the trailer. Okay. And it's a coming-of-age movie. It's about an 18-year-old girl who does shrooms on her 18th birthday, trips, and meets her 39-year-old self, Aubrey Plaza. And somehow, this is all in the trailer, again, not spoiling because I haven't seen it, somehow she still is in touch with her, and they still, like, the whole movie is them essentially together, trying to teach her what not to do or what to do as her 18-year-old self. And it is going to be a good one.
Okay. I'll probably go to that one.
Oh, you're going to come?
I think so.
Okay.
This week, one of the reasons was I didn't read the book, so that's why I didn't go. And
I want you to watch it now, though.
No, I will. But I also wanted to get stuff done, like, around the house and work-wise, because I'm flying out Thursday afternoon for Vegas, so I wanted to, like, kind of get things in order. But I will go see was it Aubrey Plaza? I will go see that movie.
Yes.
Let's see. Really need the Olympics to end so I can commit to reading it. Yeah, the Olympics, it's funny. You can, God bless you, Carla Marie. You can tune in, specifically whether you're watching live or at night. You could tune in for one event, and the next thing you know, you're watching an event you had zero interest in going in, but you're like fully committed all of a sudden.
I was like trying to watch pole vault with I was like this, come on, I just got to get through. Yeah. I could not.
All of the athletics events, as they're listed on the websites, the track and field events, which I don't know why they just don't say track and field or TNF.
They say track and field on
the websites. If you go to
on Peacock,
if you go to Olympics or you go to ESPN and you try to get the schedule, it's under athletics.
Oh,
but
isn't it all athletics?
Is there a non-athletic event? No,
I guess the shooting.
I mean, still hand-eye coordination.
Oh, there are some questions about the movie. Hold on.
Go for it. Let's get into that first.
Did I read the book? Yes, I read It Ends With Us and It Starts With Us. It Starts With Us is not a part of this movie. It is a completely different...
And that is a sequel.
That is a sequel.
So if you're going by title, flip it and reverse it.
Yeah, I almost read it backwards. Okay.
On to the Olympics?
Anthony, did not see the movie? No. Okay.
No. So... the track and field events are easy for me to get into because I did track and field for so long. But it's the other events. I'm trying to think of one, like watching kayaking the other day. I mean, I've been in a kayak once, but I don't know like how hard what they're doing is. But when you start watching it, the announcers for the most part do a great job of walking dummies through events they might not be familiar with. Mm-hmm. And honestly, it's kind of the athletic version of going to a Comic-Con. Because even if you're not interested in things at a Comic-Con, you go there and you're like, I love how much people love this.
Yes.
I love how invested you are in this. And when you watch the Olympics, you go, I love how much you have put your life into badminton. I love how passionate you are about this stupid-ass sport and how good you are at it and how you spent so much time perfecting it.
Yeah, I personally have loved watching track and field the most because it is the one sport that I did the longest that is in the Olympics. I did gymnastics for like a year, and I certainly did not do anything that looked like that. But track and fields, like I ran around a field. I ran the 100, the 200, the 400, the relay. I did the long jump. Like I did these things. So watching it, I'm just like, I know how hard this is, and they are doubling higher or doubling lower in terms of time what I've done.
Did you see there was a side-by-side image of Jesse Owens, when he won the gold in, what, 1912? No, it was after that. It was in the 40s. It was his time winning the Olympics and breaking the world record. And it was him and the guy who came in last.
Yes, I saw this.
In the 100-meter dash this week or this weekend. And they're like a fraction of a second apart. No, that's how crazy, like, these sports are getting. And I don't know when or if we'll ever plateau. Like, are we ever going to see a sub 9-second 100-meter dash?
I think you're going to die after you run that, though. I mean, your body parts will just fall off.
I remember when breaking 4 minutes in the mile was bonkers.
And now, what is Danielle's son, Preston? What is he running?
He's close to 4, but Olympians are running 3:30 in the 1500. I know that's 100 meters less, but like
that's insane.
The times are just wild.
Wait, is there no mile? I've seen that there's a 15, so they don't do.
I don't know if there's an Olympic mile. I think it's just the Olympic 15.
Well, that's stupid. Why would they do that?
I don't know.
Make it a clean 4 times around.
Does anyone know?
I hate that. Clean 4 times around. Mile. What are they doing?
1936 was Jesse Owens. Thank you very much.
Okay,
Fred.
so I watched.
Fred was there.
I watched the 1912 comparison of a diver who won gold and the divers now, and they just literally just dove in.
Oh, yeah. The Olympic side-by-sides are good, too, like the vault, where they just do one flip over in the 60s, and now they're doing quadruple axle, double can opener power bombs. I don't know. Whatever they're called.
You said the Olympic side-by-sides? That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, side-by-side, like gymnastics, side-by-side.
Okay, I was very confused. I was like, we're quite literally talking
about Jess from Minnesota said the 1,500-meter run is more common worldwide than the mile.
Which makes sense.
It doesn't, though, actually. I was about to say it makes sense. We have a 400-meter dash. We have a 100-meter dash, a 200-meter dash, a 400-meter run, an 800-meter run. So they've all doubled, right? Why would we not just go to 16? I know it also equates to a mile, but it makes sense
to double
as you keep doubling. But then you double from the 15 to the 3,000-meter steeplechase,
which is
so. I don't know why they decided to do that. And the 15 is wild to watch. And here's what you have to remember when you're watching these distance runs, especially the 15, is they're still running, like their final 200 of that almost mile-long race is still faster than you're going to run a fresh 200. Think about that for a second. They're finishing almost a mile run. And if you, with all of your energy, get out there and just try to sprint 200 meters, they are most likely still going to beat you.
I can't remember what my 100 or my 200, like I can kind of, but then when I like think about it, I'm like, that can't be right. I think I ran the 100 like 14, maybe a 13.6. Those numbers sound familiar in my head.
Were you like, did you win medals and stuff?
Yes, every meet. At least third.
So you said 13.6?
Probably my best.
I want to say that might be a like.
And I think I did a 29 something once in the 200, but I don't know what's even good.
I believe that in the 200.
Because I would be so gassed after that first 100.
New Jersey State girls record.
Imagine it's me.
100 meters.
Could you imagine my name comes up? Yeah, it's a 10.8.
That's like
North Carolina.
Okay, here we go.
What would you do if it was like my name? Go to 2006.
2000.
No, I got slower as I got older, so go to 2003.
Hold on, we're just gonna go. Okay, this is.
We didn't have websites then, so there's no way I'm on here.
This is impossible to freaking navigate. What is the record for the girls 100-meter dash in New Jersey? For the high school.
Maybe I ran 16. There's no way I ran 16. I doubled the amount of time it takes the Olympians. It's very possible.
Why can't I just find the New Jersey
Because apparently
record?
they're not running in New Jersey. My high school definitely doesn't have the records I've thought about. My old track coach might have books of them. But yeah, I varsity'd my freshman year very early on because I got so many points.
Okay. So maybe you did run a 13.6. I think my best time in the 100 was an 11.5. I was a decent 100-meter runner. I was much like I am today, very stubborn in high school. One of the reasons I started track and field was because I was too stubborn in my freshman year of high school to move from infield to the outfield. There was a kid in baseball. I wanted to be a shortstop. There was a kid, Ben, who started in front of me, who's a much better shortstop. But we needed an outfielder. I refused to move because I thought I wanted to be Derek Jeter. So then I just quit baseball.
Like, did you think you were going to go to the MLB?
No, I just wanted to play shortstop. Then when I got into track and field, I was like, well, I want to be a sprinter. I know on the baseball field, when I play sports or whatever, I'm one of the faster people there. I want to be a sprinter. And I had a coach, Coach Mack, who would come up to me every practice my junior year and say, Anthony, you would be one of the best middle distance runners we had if you just trained with me. But the problem was he was also the cross country coach. So his kids used to run a lot, and I just wasn't like ready for that. But he was 100% right, because when I finally, my senior year, just did, because I wasn't training a lot outside of javelin. I was just weightlifting, doing a couple sprints, and throwing the javelin. They put me in last second for a couple of middle distance races, like the 400, the 4x4, and the 8. Yeah. And I was very, very good, but I was just too hard-headed to not want to do the 100 and the 200. But that brings me to Olympics 2028. It is here in Los Angeles, and I think I might find a loophole to qualify for the Olympic Games. Okay, now hear me out.
Are we going to see you in a Speedo as you dive?
No. I'm going to start training, like, I'm going to look up how much a javelin is, and for the next 4 years, I'm going to start training, retraining in the javelin, because that was the sport I did the best in. I was a state sectional athlete in New Jersey. I did it at Seton Hall.
Where do you even buy one of those?
Just on the internet.
Amazon. Oh my God.
Amazon's probably got a couple. How much is a javelin these days? You got a booger on the top of your nose. God bless you.
Thank you. Well, if you buy it from fourthrows.com, it's $1,000. If you buy it from Amazon, it's $189.
Yeah, I'll buy the Amazon one. Okay, so here's the deal. It's not just that I'm going to train in the javelin for the Olympics. I am fortunate enough to, I believe, also have a Lebanese citizenship.
What do you mean believe?
I need to make sure the paperwork's all, like, done.
Was your dad in charge of this?
Most likely.
Oh, no.
So my dad, and even if I don't have the Lebanese citizenship now, I think I can still apply for it in time. And if your grandparents were from a country, and thankfully my dad is from Lebanon, you usually can qualify for their Olympic team. Now, Lebanon, as beautiful as the country is, it's also ran by a bunch of dummies and doesn't have a lot of great.
Well, they're not going to let you after that comment.
Well, we'll see. So I think I could qualify for the Olympics with the Lebanese national team for javelin. I think I can do it because I looked up the javelin record in Lebanon, and it's not far from what I was throwing in college. Like, if I really tried to in college, I probably could have broken the national record in Lebanon. It's like 60 meters. It's 62 meters maybe, and I was throwing like 53 meters.
If.
Yeah.
I could just hear the intro. Next up is Anthony. Did you know he is a podcaster and live streamer in actually Seattle, Washington, here in America, right up the coast?
So my mom, oh, sorry.
He is now competing under the Lebanese flag.
So my mom is in the chat and she says, I do have a Lebanese citizenship.
Where's your passport?
No, I didn't say a passport, a citizenship. Much like a lot of people in America don't have passports, even if they're born here.
But if I do the Italian thing, I get the passport.
You have to get the citizenship first, then you would get your passport, yes. Because you weren't born there, so it's a little different.
Okay.
But I have a citizenship, apparently, according to my mom. I need to see that paperwork. And I think I'm gonna look into this. Because there's also I think there's a certain amount of meets you have to compete in up until then.
So you have to go to Lebanon?
So now I'm looking up, like, what are open meets in America that I can go to.
Do you have to compete in them in the country that...
I don't believe so. I think you just have to compete in like recognized events.
Here, the other athletes from Lebanon are going to hate you.
No, because what I would do is I would try to get more eyes and ears on the Lebanese national team. The thing about Lebanon is our diaspora, like our population outside of Lebanon, is huge. It's way bigger than the people in Lebanon. Oh. And if we can just get some good merch some good Olympic merch to be sold, the Habibis around the world, Australia, America, Montreal,
we need to give you a fun name.
Brazil, they would eat that up.
Like pommel horse guy, what are you going to be? You got it.
Habibi stick.
No. If you go to the Olympics, you better become a meme. Otherwise, you're not invited back to this state.
So
the traveling javelin.
Yeah, I would do that. Who said that? Fred? There it is. The traveling javelin. So I would use the notoriety that I would gain from being this Lebanese javelin thrower in America, and I would try to make money for the Olympic committee or whatever in Lebanon so they can then sponsor more sports in the country and maybe build some infrastructure. I don't know.
Could you imagine you became
maybe get some running electricity? You
became the Prince of Lebanon because of your javelin?
We have a democratically elected president. Thank you very much.
But this is the title they would give you.
The Prince
of
Lebanon.
Not an actual prince.
Are you going to thank your mom when you win? Of course.
But the citizenship wouldn't have been from her
That's true.
side.
I would have to thank my dad first, since that's how I got the citizenship.
But I'm willing to bet that the paperwork was actually done by your mom. So
I wonder, my mom, and she could probably say this in the chat, I think the only citizenship she has is American, because since her side of the family is Palestinian refugees, no one gave them citizenship until they came to America.
And she wouldn't have a Palestinian one.
No. I don't think so. Oh, my mom did the paperwork, she said. You know what? I can thank both my parents. I don't know why more athletes don't do that. Like, if you didn't have one of your parents, I get that. But why don't they just say, thanks, mom and dad, instead of thanks, mom, all the time?
Well, because maybe their dad wasn't there.
That's what I said. If you don't have both, that makes sense. There's a lot of dads out there that are probably watching their kids thank their moms and going I played catch with you a lot. Why aren't you thanking me?
Because moms are the ones, you know?
Yeah, my mom said she is a person without a homeland.
That's crazy.
Yeah. All right.
Hold on then.
Yes.
If I get my Italian citizenship, can I compete for Italy?
I don't know. That Italian team looks pretty good this year.
Well, what are they bad at? What are they the worst at? Yes. But in the Olympics, what are they the worst at? And then I will become so good at it.
Good. There were two loophole athletes that I've seen recently. They were absolutely terrible when they got into their Olympic Games. I don't know if it's this year, but there was one guy who barely knew how to swim, I guess, but somehow made it into one of the swimming events.
Just for fun?
Just got in. I forgot how. And then there was a woman who did, I think it was the snowboard or the skier half pipe event. But there was some loophole where if you placed in the top 30 in a certain number of meets or events, then you got to qualify for the Olympics. So all she did is she traveled to all these different competitions across the world that had less than 30 entries. And she would go in, and a lot of times she'd end up beating people because she would do the easiest routine you could possibly do. And then other people would be trying to do tricks and they'd fail. So she would rank above them. So she ended up becoming the 27th ranked skier in the world.
I'm not.
And was able to go to the Olympics because of it.
All right, so I got to find that loophole.
Yeah.
So by the time the 2028 Olympics rolls around, I'll be 40.
Okay.
Because you know what? Have you seen the cyclist? The American cyclist?
She's only been cycling for 2 or 3 years, right?
After college, she started cycling, and now she just won gold.
But is she just removed from college? She's in her 20s?
She's in her 20s.
Yeah, because if to do an athletic event like that.
Yeah, I'm not going to cycle because I don't like the way it makes my butt feel. Cycle down the street, let alone for 30 miles. She's only been cycling for 7
years. But here's the thing. I have a background in javelin. Once I get out there, I would need a solid week of just kind of warming up, doing some light throws, get the rhythm back. And then I could start really training to throw again. I'd have to probably make sure I was doing yoga this time around, some sort of stretching type thing for mobility. Because back in the day, I could just play beer pong all night, wake up the next morning, go to track practice, and that was fine because I was 19, 20 years old. Can't do that anymore. But I think I'd be much better. I'm much stronger than I was.
Of course.
So why not try it out?
I know. I would love you to.
All right. How do I reach out to the National
Jess from
Olympic
Minnesota
Committee from Lebanon?
Said she loved the story of the Chilean grandma who started in table tennis for the first time ever. So I saw that on Instagram. Is she actually in the Olympics?
I don't know.
She's a grandma, like old.
I mean, there were also young grandmas.
That's why I said old. I saw a picture.
So I think I can do it. I think I can try to qualify for the Lebanese Olympic team. And how cool would it be to do that in America?
Could you imagine you did javelin and then I did skeet shooting, whatever it is for Italy?
Ski. Nick and NYC said, my mom is a grandma and she's 54.
Yeah, my mom was a grandma at 44. But I said she is an old grandma.
You have info?
She is only 58. This is not the lady I saw.
She could still be a grandma, though.
I know, but this is not the woman that I saw.
All right, let's see. Can we talk about the floor gymnastic final where Romania was in third, then they readjusted the score and moved the U.S. to third? I did not see that. How do you get around like readjusting the score afterwards? You know, that is my one problem with the judged events.
Yeah, it is weird.
Is I don't necessarily love the human element of it in terms of like, I know there's no other way, but then I also find out I don't like myself watching those events because I
give everybody 10.
I get very elitist very quickly when I watch those. Like when I watch the diving events, the synchronized diving or whatever.
When they did slow-mo?
I'm always like, I don't know, there's a little bit too much of a splash there.
Yeah.
Deduct a point.
I'd love to watch you try to dive into a pool.
I'd belly flop the whole time.
I could pencil. One hand on my nose.
I think the craziest part of that is just getting off that diving board.
No, how do you know where your body is?
Oh, apparently we're in an ad break. Huh. Let's just keep going. Screw it.
No game?
No, I mean, it started already. We're good. So how do you know where your body is?
Yeah.
Just a bunch of practice.
Even gymnastics. Like when Simone Biles is flipping in the air and when they do the slow-mos of everybody or the photos of their faces mid-air.
Yeah. I think those events, like when you're spinning on the pommel horse or you're dismounting from the vault or even in the winter sports, when you're spinning 4 times in a skiing or snowboarding event, the idea that you can like spot your landing and know exactly where your body is in relation to the mat or the snow or the vault, whatever.
Especially snow.
It's wild.
When it's all just the same color. So apparently the U.S. paid to have their gymnastics score reviewed.
$300 to challenge? That doesn't seem like very much. I'd challenge everything. If the Olympics were on the line and I was America and I could buy whatever I wanted, it should be a percentage of your GDP. That way America and like all the developed nations have to pay more.
Okay,
what are you reading?
So our gymnast was in 5th. Jordan was in 5th. And Romania's was in 3rd. Mm-hmm. And then after the competition ended, it appeared she was out of medal contention. She stood in 5th place with a score of 13.666. A short time later, the 23-year-old gymnast was suddenly seen jumping in the air. In an unexpected move, her score was adjusted after judges conducted a review. Mm-hmm. The challenge involved Jordan's tour jete full, one of the elements of her routine, which Team USA felt was not properly scored. She didn't get credit for the move in both qualifications and the team final. The judges agreed, and the decision pushed her past Romanian, past 2 people into 3rd.
So Jen said that there's a TikTok from Sean Johnson, former gymnast, who said that you can challenge the difficulty score. So if they didn't give you your appropriate difficulty for that move, I guess, they can adjust that, which then obviously changes your overall score. So I guess that makes sense. It sucks for the person who had a medal. The person in 4th, I don't really feel that bad for. You were off the podium anyway.
That 3rd place person hates us.
Oh, yeah. I mean, here's the thing. Most countries are going to hate America, especially in the Olympics. I mean, we send more athletes than I think anyone. I think China might send more than us.
I think U.S. has, this year is the first time we have even number of male and female athletes.
Oh, cool.
Or like maybe 2 more females. It's like something strange. In the overall Olympics, I believe there's more female.
I think one of the craziest things to see is now that we fund women, now that we have a base of funding women's sports, like with Title IX and all of the improvements we've made over the last, 20, 30 years, you're seeing that pay off, and you're seeing the comparison to other countries, and you're seeing why our women are so dominant in those sports. Because most countries, most developed countries, are putting money towards their men's teams. So I think our women are still 20 years ahead of what most countries are doing.
Crazy.
Outside of maybe sprinters in Jamaica, and then you have obviously China and the UK spend a lot of money on their sports. But there's a very steep drop-off from the amount of resources our women get to the rest of the countries. Yeah, and you're seeing it pay off. You're seeing what happens when you actually invest
I hope other countries
in women's sports. Now, other countries, some of them might not be able to. I mean, some countries barely are affording their Olympic teams right now.
Well, we're barely affording ours, other than Flavor Flav paying for it. Okay, so Jordan, our gymnast, didn't really jump 2 spots. All 3 were tied.
Okay.
Technically.
Let's see. Nick said France had 400 athletes. The UK had 150.
We had 600.
600 athletes. That's crazy. Biggest of them all. Thank you, Nick. Let's see. Jen said, look at the Brazilian gymnast who, I did see this, who got gold on the beam, and she did that basically with no program in her home country. And you also have to remember even when you look at how dominant our women are.
Oh, it is 50-50 for the Olympics this year, male-female athletes. That's awesome.
So when you look at how dominant our women are in the Olympics, and then you start realizing how many of the women from other countries actually live and train in America, not in their home countries, or at least went to college here and got their real training here. It is crazy how much America invests in sports. And I love it. I'm a sports fan, and I love the fact that...
Well, because sports also give back so much money. Not back, yes, charity-wise, but I'm talking about to our economy. Mm-hmm. If sports were gone...
Yeah.
Would, the amount of money that goes back into communities because of sporting events.
Well, I also think it allows people in other countries to get out of certain situations and to elevate themselves and their families by coming here, getting a scholarship to, one of the big colleges, and then that could literally change your life and your whole family's life. Mm-hmm. If you were in a third world or developing country, you come over here, that's an incredible improvement most of the time.
The Norwegian pole vaulter went to Princeton.
That does not surprise me at all.
Why?
Princeton's got a pretty good track program. Track and
well,
field.
I was like, could you imagine you're like, I'm going to America for college, and then you find out you have to live in New Jersey? No offense. Love New Jersey. But imagine being from Norway and I'm going to America. You're just going to Princeton.
I, for a long time, growing up, didn't realize Princeton was even in New Jersey.
I know. They do a really good job at not telling people where they are.
And it is, listen, I've been near the campus once. It's a beautiful area.
Yep.
It doesn't feel like you're in New Jersey.
No.
Although Seton Hall's campus is nice.
No, Rutgers, you feel like you are in New Jersey. Except when you're actually physically on the campus walking around the dorms. The classrooms. But when you're right out,
on College Ave?
Yeah, it's very much.
What else do we have on the list today, Carla Marie? We did Olympics 2028, Here I Come. It ends with us review. Oh, jumping out of airplanes. We haven't even talked about this yet. So on Sunday, we had the opportunity to go up with the Golden Knights parachuting team.
The Army Golden Knights.
Yep. And we have a thing here in Seattle called Seafair. Mm-hmm. It's a big air and lake festival. Everyone takes their boats out and ties them up together and parties for the whole weekend. There's hydroplane races.
I saw them from the airplane. I forgot to tell you that.
The Blue Angels come over. There's old planes that fly over, and the Army parachuting team. So we were the only 2 media people.
Well,
and your friend Kyle.
Okay, so the way we got to do this is Kyle, who I work with at the Seahawks, his job is essentially it's community and military relations. I don't know the official title, but anytime you see a single military member on the field at a game, whether it's holding the flag, being honored at a certain quarter, doing a flyover, Kyle has planned that, interacted with them, made that happen. He if the team is going to visit a base or whatever it may be, he's doing that. So he has had just connections for years.
He's the military liaison.
Basically. So the Army Golden Knights contact said, hey, Kyle, do you want to go up for a ride on Seafair Day? And if you have any media friends that you would want to bring, that's great. And he was like, I know just the people. And he sent our info over to them, and they were like, yeah, they look great. Let's bring them in. And we just got to, like, we spent, 4 hours hanging out with them?
I love the fact that we have become the people in Seattle where if there is an extreme media opportunity, they reach out to us. Think about it. Kim Holcomb, who just left King 5, but she was on King 5 evening.
Last night.
She, when she needed people to jump into Lake Washington in the winter, who did she call? Us. When they needed media people to ride those little dirt bikes for motocross, who did they call? Us. When they needed people to go up in the plane with the Army parachuting team, who did they call? We're becoming those people.
So we got to be in the plane. It is when we say the plane, the inside of the plane does not look like a regular plane. It looks like a military plane. Yeah. Like we were sitting on essentially cots attached to the wall. And I was like, oh man, I'm blown. This whole thing's coming out.
There's like 8 regular seats in the front. They're just a little smaller than your regular commercial airline. The wild thing to me was they have this back door that's specifically like designed and opened for the parachute team.
It's like the size of an emergency exit door. Well, bigger.
It's bigger. It's probably twice the size of that. When we've gone up skydiving, it's a smaller plane, but you go up and then they open the door when you're up there. The door was open the whole time, and I thought, okay, maybe they just have the door open for training, and then they'll close it. And then we got on the runway. I'm like, they're going to close it any moment now. And then we started moving to our position on the runway. I said, okay, maybe they're just keeping it open for now. They'll definitely close it before we take off.
Maybe there's like not air in here, like air conditioning.
And then we started taking off, and I realized this door is going to stay open the entire time.
And it did. And it was the best when we finally landed and they closed it. I was like, good time to close it. Thank you. But before we get on the plane, the pilot says to us, hey, do you guys get motion sickness? I was like, no, not really. He's like, okay, did you eat anything this morning? I was like, a banana. And I said, how is this going to be different than any other flight? I fly all the time. And he started laughing, and he's like, oh, you should eat some. And he got me chips. I ate some Sun Chips. We were dropping in altitude. Just like what? We dropped probably. There was at one point where my stomach dropped.
We only, I think, got up to a maximum of 10,000 feet.
Not even.
9,000 is where they jumped from.
Why? Because I watched they are all wearing like these
altimeters
things that tell, and I saw it all said 9 exactly on everybody's.
Okay, let's backtrack. So the guy makes us eat a bag of chips each. And then they're giving us all the warnings, right? Like, if you've been scuba diving in the last 24 hours, you can't go on this plane. And part of it was we ascended much faster than you would ascend in a commercial plane, and we descended much faster as well. And on top of that, I mean, when they make a left turn, it's like being in a car. They just go whoop, and you're like, you feel the whole plane kind of jerk to the left. The craziest thing to me was watching. Once we got up, everyone's seated and buckled for the ascent. And then you get to whatever, I don't know, 3,000 feet, wherever they were, and it levels out a little bit. And now all the parachuters take off their seatbelts, and they're just walking around this plane with a wide open door in the back.
I mean, they have a parachute attached to them.
They do. And there was one guy, I don't know what his job was in terms of like relaying information back or checking the spots or whatever. But he was kneeling by this open door as it was dipping and turning left and right.
Looking down.
Totally nonchalant. And the whole time I'm watching him going, he's going to fall. And like you said, thankfully he's got a parachute.
Apparently no one's fallen out ever.
Not yet.
Not on purpose.
Yes.
On purpose they fall
out. But it was a really cool experience, and seeing them all kind of like get themselves hyped and check each other's equipment and pack it all together. It was just really cool to see the whole thing come together.
The one guy was like, are you okay? How you doing? I was like, I'm good. I'm not about to jump out of an airplane, dude. And we were
fully strapped in the whole time.
Yes. I had double straps because I was so close to the door. But they were so accommodating to make sure we were okay. It's like, isn't this, like, how are you feeling? I'm like, this is insane. I said to the one guy, I can't believe this is your office. And he goes, that's your office. And he pointed to Lumen Field. And I was like, yeah, because we were right above it. And they were just like casually having a conversation like we were just at the water cooler.
Yeah.
But I was watching them calculate and talk to each other because those quick turns we would have to take is because they would have to jump. Each of them jumped from the exact same spot or exact same spot for what their type of parachute was.
Yeah.
So they first throw these streamers out of the plane. They just go, whew, and I see them all, streamers perfectly lined up, yellow, black, like they were still stayed perfect, and they dropped straight down, and that's how they know, okay, where the streamers land, now we know where to jump from. Okay. The target that these men land on after jumping out of a plane at 9,000 feet, the target they hit with their feet is the size of a dinner plate.
It's crazy. They're so good. And you start realizing how much math they're doing up there to make sure everything is calculated perfectly. You start also realizing how much they practice on the ground.
Yeah.
How much they talk about up there.
It's called the dirt dive when they practice on the ground.
It was really, really cool. The whole experience from beginning to end, all of the guys who were part of it were super accommodating.
The nicest guys.
It was really, really cool to be a part of. Let's see. Martha said, is there a video from the bottom?
I have I have their GoPro footage.
Yeah.
I didn't put it in our video yet because I wanted to use our footage. But yeah, so I have their GoPro footage, so what their helmets see and what is on the bottom.
Yeah.
I should do a video of that, even though it's not mine. But.
I will say they told us going up, or before we went up, they said, hey, if we're coming down and you feel anything weird, just let us know. I was like, oh, it's going to be fine. When we started descending, because they descended so fast, I legitimately got a headache. I got like real wobbly
His
for
eyes
a second.
Started watering?
Yeah. Because they just, once they were out of the plane, they went straight down, basically.
Some of us are not cut out for the Army parachuting life. Some of us are.
Yeah.
Maybe that'll be an Olympic sport.
Parachuting?
They jump. Do you know how fast they're going when they're diving out?
I mean,
before they pull their chute?
9.8 meters per second squared.
120 miles an hour. Their bodies are shooting out of that airplane.
Yeah.
How you breathe? I don't know.
It also does get really cold up there.
Oh, we were
at only 9,000 feet. I was shaking, and I had a flannel and a hoodie on, and I was legitimately shivering. Kyla, who was sitting next to me, had a full winter coat.
It was just insanity. Yeah. And we each had different views. Like, you had a wide view of the city. I could only, because of where I was sitting, I could only see a little. But I could quite literally watch these men jump, and I could see them all the way down, still going.
You know what was funny? As much as the plane would, climb, drop, bank left, bank right, all of that stuff, there wasn't a moment that I was up there that I actually felt nervous. It wasn't like being in bad turbulence on an actual plane.
I thought the same thing. At one point, I
felt really comfortable.
I was like, oh, I could essentially just fly out of this window, this door.
Yes.
Like, if both my seatbelts broke, or I just, you have the, what is it called? The intrusive thoughts of what if I just unbuckle these and stand up? Yeah. What's going to happen? And I said to the one guy, if I flew out of here, would you be able to catch me? Dive and catch me. And he said, I could catch you, but I don't know if I could hold on to you, because once the chute goes, whatever.
You would have to be latched onto him as hard as you could, and he'd have to have his legs around you, and then hope that when he pulls it, you don't separate.
I would have a heart attack on the way down, so it wouldn't matter. I'd be dead.
I'm going to be on the Spirit flight on Thursday, going down to Vegas. I'm probably going to have a worse experience in that turbulence. Because flying into Vegas, you've mentioned this before. It's always windy. Mm-hmm. It's always turbulent when you're landing in Vegas. So I'll probably be more nervous on that commercial airline than I was with this plane doing loop-de-loops or whatever it did. When
I was talking to the pilot, I said something like, how is this any different than a commercial airline? And Anthony said, well, it's not going to be different than my Spirit flight. And the pilot was like, to be honest, you're probably going to have a smoother landing. And
their landing was perfect.
With the door wide open.
Yeah.
And also, we had a special treat because the woman who trained one of the pilots to fly that plane is from here and came to see him and sit in with him. And she's his it's like your old teacher coming to watch you do what you do.
Yeah.
And she got to hang out and watch him. That was really
She
cool.
was in the cockpit the whole time. Yeah. Which was cool. She apparently, this woman.
She messaged me on Instagram.
It seems like she's one of the preeminent flight instructors for that specific airplane. That's the only thing she trains people on. It's what she has the most hours in. She used to be a commercial airline pilot, and now that is the one plane that she works on.
It's wild.
And teaches people that specific plane, and obviously teaches them for the Army. So she's an expert in that one plane.
Imagine.
And that's a cool thing.
Man.
There's so many industries like that where if you're the best at one very specific thing, it can take you very far. We tell people today in the corporate world or just in general, it's like, oh, you got to be good at everything. It's like, well, sometimes you just got to be really, really good at one thing and do that one thing perfectly. And she was an example of that.
Yeah, for sure. I would like to go back to school and find one thing. I do too many.
I mean, you could do, what's one thing you would do?
I'd probably fly planes.
So go do it.
No, JK. I think I would study environmental science.
But what would be your one thing? Just environmental science?
I guess I would just test water. I don't
You know, one of the people, speaking of pilots and training and doing things later in life, one of the people who probably doesn't even realize how influential he's been on our lives is our old boss, Justin. He used to be our program director here in Seattle. He was one of the good guys, first off, when it comes to our management here in Seattle. And he was probably only our boss for like a year.
That's crazy to think about.
Right? They brought him up from... He was in Portland for a little bit. I want to say New Mexico.
I don't think that's
true. Or
true.
Phoenix. Somewhere in the Southwest. They brought him up, said, hey, we have a new station for you. It's a bigger market than where you were. We want you to program. And his family's from Washington, so that was great for him. And then within a year, they decided to turn off Power 93.3. They let him go. And while he had a severance, he was like, you know, I've always been interested in flying. I've had my personal pilot's license for a little bit. I've flown small planes. And I've always wanted to be a pilot, like an actual commercial pilot. So I'm going to go do that. And keep in mind, he's older than us. So he's, at this point, he's probably like 44, maybe?
Yeah.
Something like that. And decided after a very successful career in radio, where he was making good money, to switch it up completely. And then eventually, while he was training, because it takes a long time to go from being a regular pilot to a commercial pilot.
I know what you're going to say, but it wasn't when he was training. He got certified to be a pilot.
Yeah.
After training. You're going to talk about...
They tried to bring him back to radio.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were talking about something else.
And they offered him the job again because our program director left. There was a whole thing. They needed someone to fill the role for a little bit. So they brought him back temporarily. And they gave him the opportunity to say, hey, this job could be yours if you want it again. And I remember I was in his office and he said, and I congratulated him. I said, oh, well, congrats. He said, I turned it down. He goes, this industry, I've done what I needed to do. I've shown that I can do it. And even the fact that they came back, I've done my thing here. I don't need to do this forever. Being a pilot, first off, there's a union that will protect me from the volatility of this job. And it's just something I've always wanted to do. And he kept going and got his pilot's license. He did all his hours for Horizon. And now he is a commercial airline pilot for Horizon and Alaska. I think you have to do the smaller regional planes for Alaska or for Horizon first, which is a sub-brand of Alaska Airlines. And then he'll be taking cross-country flights on those big-ass Alaska planes.
What I thought you were going to say was that once he became a pilot for a bit, got diagnosed with cancer.
Yep.
And then had to go through chemo and everything, and you can't fly while you're going through radiation and all of that. So he then had to go through cancer, go through chemo, get past that, then go through a lot of recertification and paperwork to prove, okay, I'm fine again.
Yeah.
And
you get like recertified for your health, basically.
It's crazy. So then now he's back again. So like even once he finally did what he always wanted to do, got knocked down again, and now he's back again.
And it's been one of those things where I look at him every time I think about how we've had to pivot and whatnot, and I go, it can be done.
Yeah, I can be a pilot.
And he's a little bit older. He's got a family. Like, you can make things work. Obviously, he's got a great wife that supports, because there's times where there were times where he wasn't really making money, or not as much as he was in his old job. And they've figured it out, and they made it work. And it's one of those great examples of how you can pivot in life and do something completely different. You don't have to have every job forever. And what I loved that he said at one point was he did it, right? He did the thing. He programmed some of the biggest stations in the country. And that's what he wanted to do. You don't have to do that thing forever.
Okay, this is my resignation.
See you later.
Man.
Let's see here. I knew an engineer who worked for Dell EMC, took a volunteer layoff package because he always wanted to be a professional bass fisherman. Is that what he's doing? Because that's awesome.
What?
That would be awesome.
Yeah,
That's going to be like me being a professional javelin thrower.
Are you going to make money, though?
Probably not.
Yeah, this is going to be...
Although I'm sure there's probably some, like, corrupt gang member or something in Lebanon that would, like, pay me to do, like, I don't know, endorsements for whatever they do.
For the gang?
Yeah, maybe. Apparently Lebanon sells a ton of weed.
Cool. Is it legal?
No.
Oh.
No, not at all.
I always think like, oh man, I would love to go back to school for something. And then I think, but I have to pay for it.
Yeah. Yes, you do.
And I'm like, I'm still paying for the first round. My goal, this is what's going to happen. I'm going to pay off my student loans and then go back to school just because it's so fun to have student loans.
So my barber's in here, marijuana. He said one of the guys at Squire, which is an old barbershop in downtown Seattle, worked IT for 15 years, woke up one day and decided he didn't want to do it anymore and went to barber school. I am so envious of people who can do that. And I've been someone who, like, I will take risks. Like, I'm not necessarily a risk averse, but being able to just wake up one morning after you've had a career for that long and say, like, done.
It's harder, I think, with what we do because it is so much tied to your personality.
Yeah. I mean, people do it all the time,
As much as I'm very conscious of not. Yeah, but also if I make that decision, it doesn't affect me only. It affects you. And to be honest, it's probably one of the main reasons that I haven't done that.
Yeah. Jess from Minnesota said I went to engineering school, lasted 4 years, and switched specifically to the coffee or to the specialty coffee world. Less money, but more happiness.
I love that.
Yeah.
Wait.
Let's see.
Cheese Dot, I came one drive away from moving from podcasting to being a carpenter. I was going to the union meeting the following day, and I ended up not going.
There you go. I have a friend who later in life joined I don't know what the union is called, but it's basically the union that builds all of the sets for TV shows in New York City.
Fun.
And
not SAG-AFTRA.
he was kind of bouncing around. I would call them manual labor adjacent jobs. So he was usually like in a warehouse for a company that would sell or distribute products for sprinkler services or for other manual labor plumbing jobs, stuff like that. And he had his stepdad worked for this union. And one day he was just like, that life looks great. I can learn from my stepdad. And I don't really like what I'm doing. I'm not like engaged in this. And now he's learned so much in terms of like craftsmanship, in terms of building things. He builds stuff for himself all the time.
Who is this?
My friend Drew.
Oh.
And it's one of those things, it just shows you can adjust in life later on and make it work.
For sure.
Oh, I just completed some arbitrary goal that Fitbit gave me.
You haven't done shit today.
250 of something.
Find out.
I think I just moved my hands a lot and it thinks I'm running.
That's ridiculous.
Just do this all day. All right, it's time for us to get out of here. It is 9 o'clock. If you want to join us as we participate in this Bob Ross Twitch stream later this evening, you can do that. We will post all of the links on our Instagram stories. I am at Worst Anthony.
At the Carla Marie.
If you're in our Discord, we will also drop the link in there and we will tweet it out as well. So we'll have all of that information. If you like watching people paint, maybe you want to learn how to do that on your own, you should hang out with us. Peace out.
Did you say the time? 6 p.m. Eastern? I just did. 6 p.m. Eastern.
There we go.